I know this isn't like the usual setup that I have for videos, but I was a little busy, so we're gonna have to do it a little bit differently today. I'm gonna try not to make a bunch of ambient noise so you don't have a bunch of noise in the video. Quit complaining, okay? We're shooting it like a biker. I know that I don't have like the big time studio like some people have, but we'll get over it for now, okay? If you want me to have a big studio, pay for it. Now, let's talk about one of the things that it matters most with biking, because if this doesn't happen, it doesn't matter after the fact. And that's why most that's why most motorcycle club, biker clubs fail. You could probably hear Jack in the background. Um, we talk about, there's a lot of channels out there that talk about what you're supposed to wear, how you're supposed to ride, if you're supposed to pass somebody, if you're not supposed to pass somebody. None of that matters if the motorcycle club closes shop. And most of the time, it's kind of like opening a restaurant. Most of these guys don't make it past the first year. And you might be saying, well, there's not a lot of bikers anyway. There's not much interest in motorcycle clubs. You'd be wrong, because just like, for instance, there's a bigger channel. I think it's Biker Protocol. He was talking about in Las Vegas, there's like, in the city, there's like 70 something clubs or more. I was like, Jesus. And there's probably close to double that in the state that I live in the South. So there's more than you think, you just don't see them. And the reason you don't see them is because they're riding together, they're going places, they're doing things, they're hanging out at the motorcycle club clubhouse. They're doing things. They're not at home in your living room. They're not on your work commute. So you don't see them. Now, most of these clubs don't make it. The ones that do have been around for a while. There's some newer clubs out there. My club, for example. But the reason why most clubs don't make it, I'll start with the number one, is because they don't really know the ins and outs of motorcycle clubs. They don't know the protocol. And if they don't know that, then they don't know to talk to other motorcycle clubs, maybe get a blessing from those motorcycle clubs. And a lot of you guys might be saying, well, I don't need to ask anybody's permission to be a motorcycle club. You think that until you throw a 3-piece on the back of your vest and you start riding around, and then you get ran off the road by another crew and then 8 other crews. So that's something to think about. Now, asking for a blessing, you need to do that. And I'm not saying you need to say, per se, ask permission, but maybe make friends with the other motorcycle clubs to kind of find out who's around, who's kind of taking up territory or not, if there are any outlaw clubs or any LE clubs, before you start doing that. Now, with that down, let's say you've done that. The next reason is, I would say, you didn't vet your members very well. So once you got everything started, they kind of washed out or left or decided they didn't want to do it, or went to a different club or got kicked out. So then you just diminished in number and went away. So that's something to think about as well. If you don't vet your members very well, you're going to have some issues with that. And you might be saying, well, what do you mean by vetting your members? Well, it's good to see if maybe they've been in a club before. or if they have been around other clubs. Can they ride a motorcycle? Do they have a motorcycle? That's something to think about. Those are important things to put in there when you're starting to find members to join a club. And a lot of people say they need at least 5 to 10 members, maybe even 15 to start a club. And once you do that, that'll start a whole nother list of issues that I'll talk about. But vetting your members is very important. Sometimes it takes a while. It's like being in a relationship. Sometimes these guys need to be riding around for a year or two so you see how they act before you even think about starting a club. Because you may get a couple members up and be mad at another club and start a club, and all hell breaks loose. So that's something to think about. Now, that part down, I would think about the next thing would be you need to be thinking about your bylaws. If you don't have proper bylaws for a club, you're not going to make it. And people were saying, well, you're supposed to be outlaws. I thought you didn't have rules and regulations, all this kind of stuff. Everywhere you go has structure. Okay? If you go outside right now and you drive down the road, do you not follow the laws of the road? When you go into a grocery store, do you not follow the laws of how you shop for groceries? Everyone follows some kind of structure. It's just when you're in an outlaw biker club, you've decided, I want to live my own life of structure and my own rules separate from those rules. Okay? And you have to have structure for anything to make it. Okay? And there's hierarchy in life that you have to be successful in life. If you just throw a bunch of guys together and give them no rules, you watch them. They will make their own rules and hierarchy on their own. Now, that's why you need your own bylaws so that people know when they're going into something, I can go this far and no further. And some guys, some outlaw bikers, that's what they really need. They need a brotherhood with structure to give them something to live for. They say, I got this brotherhood, I got these guys with me. That's all I care about. And those can be ride or die guys. They just need somebody to know that you have their back. And that's ultimately why we join clubs anyway. We join them, one, because we like motorcycles. Two, we like the brotherhood. And nothing says brotherhood like getting a phone call in the middle of the night from a friend on the side of the road and you just load up and go. And somebody said, well, you don't need to be in a club to do that. You're right. You're right. You don't. But you need to have proper bylaws. You need to have structure in the club. They need to know the ins and outs. They need to know what happens when they do certain things wrong. They need to know. Because if you don't, they'll make their own rules and it'll be anarchy. And a lot of people say, well, isn't that what an outlaw biker club is? No. There's a lot of structure to it. People think that they're gang members. There's structure to these clubs. Okay? They may live by a different set of rules than regular people, but they still have rules themselves. And that brings me to my next thing. We talked about you need to have bylaws, you need to vet your people, you need to talk about a blessing maybe. The next thing I would say is you need to think long and hard about what you want to represent in the club. So when it comes to your colors, you need to kind of investigate other clubs. That goes back to the first one again. Investigate the colors, because you may throw a certain color on and that is the exact opposite of an opposing club in the area. another club's colors that you don't even represent. You may wear, let's say, purple and gold, and you just like those colors, but there's a purple and gold major national international club that is opposing a local club in your area, and they think that you are an underclub for them because you're rocking the same colors. So then you have to go around explaining to every one of those clubs all the time that you don't have nothing to do with them, instead of just maybe picking a different color. And if that's something you want to do, and be in a motorcycle club, you could be in a riding club, but if you're deciding to be in an MC, you need to think about those colors. You need to think about the emblems, the patches that represent your club and what you stand for, because that's very important. You don't need to throw anything and everything on your club vest for no reason. It needs to have meaning, and that's important. So now, that being said, once you've decided on that, you can go ahead and throw that all on there. But I would say that most clubs fail because they go full bore. They throw all the stuff on their vest, and they get shut down by another club. So think about that before you put a three-piece on, a top and bottom rocker, and a middle patch. Think about that before you do that. There may be a time period that you need to just rock a bottom rocker, which would be like an area, or a top rocker, which would be like your name or something, without the whole patch for a while. And it's just being respectful. And I know a lot of you guys you're just too cool for school. You don't think you have to do all that. That's fine. There's some areas that will let you do that. Some people actually will respect you for doing that. And then some people knock your teeth out. So that's something to think about. And I would say another reason why most clubs don't make it, or they don't ride enough. You may get like a MC that's really like a riding club, but they want to be an MC, and they ride like once a month or so, and the guys just say, it's not really worth it, or I've got something going on, or I'm busy, or I'm doing that, and they just don't ride. So then you went through all that work, you built a clubhouse, you got the three-piece, you got the blessing, and then you don't ride enough to even warrant doing all that. A clubhouse is a very big expense. You may not need a clubhouse. You may want to meet up at a bar or one of your friends' local businesses to do meetings for your club meetings, what you call church, because you don't always need to have a physical building to do a motorcycle club. That's not needed every time. And it can be a huge, huge, huge expense. So that's something to think about. But to me, that's one of the main reasons that clubs don't make it. Besides the obvious, maybe y'all got locked up in jail for doing something illegal, because some guys think that that's what being in a motorcycle club is. But I hope you guys liked the video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to do some more videos for you guys. I just got back from riding. I've been having a nice weekend. I've been enjoying riding, being with my family. I'm probably going to get the boys out here and practice a little boxing here for a minute, and living life. But I hope you guys liked the video. I'll see you guys later. I'm out.